In this lecture, we're going to cover Chapter 16, which reviews sensory, motor, and integrative systems. We're going to start off looking at the definition of sensation versus perception and understanding how that works in our body. And then we're going to compare and contrast general versus special senses. We will look at types of sensory receptors and then talk about how we have different sensory and motor distribution in our cerebral cortex. So first off, to do kind of comparing and contrasting sensation versus perception. Sensation is our conscious or subconscious awareness of a change inside or outside of our body. So just because your body detects the sensation does not mean that you are going to be actually physically aware of it. You must perceive that sensation. So perception is our conscious interpretation of that sensation. And that can only be done in your body by your cerebral cortex. So if a signal does not reach your cerebral cortex, you do not perceive it. And a great example of this is our blood vessel dilation and contraction when we are regulating our blood pressure. That is controlled by our cardiovascular center in our brainstem in the medulla oblongata. So that's where that pathway stops. It does not continue on to the cerebral cortex. And so you are not aware that your body is adjusting your blood pressure by vasodilating or vasoconstricting your blood vessels. Some senses that we can perceive include our general senses and our special senses. Our general senses include things like our somatic senses. Somatic senses include things like our tactile sensations, which includes touch, pressure, vibration, itches, and tickles. Our thermal sensations for heat and cold, pain sensations, and our proprioception, which is kind of where our body is in space without us having to be able to see anything. We also have visceral sensations that come from our internal organs or viscera, and these include things like pressure and stretch, such as a full stomach. Chemicals, if you eat something spicy, you can feel it kind of burning the back of your tongue and throat. Nausea and hunger. And again, temperature. We also have our special senses that have special pathways that we're going to look at in Chapter 17. They include things like smell, taste, vision, hearing, and our balance or equilibrium. We've looked at this process of sensation briefly in Chapter 12 and a little bit in Chapter 13. And we talked about this was the first thing that we were going to need to do was stimulate a sensory receptor. Once that sensory receptor was activated, it would cause an action potential that would travel up our axon and into our spinal cord or brain to be integrated. And so looking at the types of sensory receptors that we have, again, these sensory receptors can be grouped into multiple categories based on their structure, location, or function. Structurally, when we are classifying our sensory receptors, we have what we call free nerve endings, which are just dendrites that are exposed. Encapsulated nerve endings, which are dendrites that are encapsulated in a piece of tissue. And separate cells, where we have a physically separate cell that kind of interprets that information before sending it to the dendrite. We can name these sensory receptors based on their location. Are they outside of the body, exteroreceptors? Are they internal, inside of the body, an interoreceptor? Or do they help with that balance and kind of body position, our proprioceptors? Many of those are found in our joint spaces and our muscle spindle fibers. And then finally, we can categorize these receptors based on their function or the stimulus that they detect. Mechanoreceptors detect some type of mechanical action that's occurred. Thermoreceptors detect temperatures like heat and cold. Nociceptors are our pain receptors, and these receptors are very important because they're very protective against further tissue damage. We have photoreceptors in our eye that detect light. And chemoreceptors we're going to look at in our tongue when we talk about how we detect different tastes. Chemoreceptors detect individual different chemicals. And then finally, your osmoreceptors detect different osmolarities or different solute concentrations, usually sodium ion concentrations. Here's a great little table from your book and a nice little visual illustration comparing those free nerve endings to your encapsulated nerve endings and our separate cells. You can also see a nice little function and location table here as well from your book about those sensory receptors. So, we've said for all of our sensory information for us that we are aware of to be perceived, it must reach our cerebral cortex. And that is going to be specifically here on our postcentral gyrus. Every sensation that you perceive is linked to a specific point on the postcentral gyrus of your cerebral cortex that we have mapped out. So we can see here that right down the center of that central sulcus, if we put our foot, that's where our feet are. And it almost is like you bend over and you're looking over the edge of the brain. So you can see that each little part of the arm, the face, and then the throat and abdomen can be mapped to a specific location on that postcentral gyrus. How we've related this is in a visual representation called a homunculus. So this little statue, this little man right here, his body parts are proportional to this, are sized to the proportion of sensory receptors you have in that area. So you see very large hands and lips because we have a lot of sensory receptors in our hands and our mouth, because we do a lot of different things with those. Again, fine grasping and tool movement we need our hands for. Eating and speaking we need to have fine detail movement of our mouth for. Other areas of the body you can see, like the calf and the back of the arm, are much skinnier and smaller because they lack more sensory receptors. We can also do this with our motor movement as well. So any voluntary motor action that you control is actually that signal starts out on our precentral gyrus, and we can see for each body part again what individual part of that precentral gyrus initiated that movement. We also have homunculi for that, the motor side as well. And again, you can kind of see they drew that over the edge of that temporal lobe of that precentral gyrus to be able to see each individual, or frontal lobe section over that specific precentral gyrus of our frontal lobe. And each individual part of the body is proportional to the amount of motor input that goes to that area. And then finally, just to kind of end all of this is much more complicated than we've talked about. And this is what neuroscience would kind of continue on from our class, linking all of the anatomical structures that we learned and their basic functions really together in these neuron circuits to help fine tune and coordinate our movements. Okay, that's chapter 16.